Hey everybody, this video is part of our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. You can find that on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes. You can pretty much find it anywhere, so we don't care where you listen. Just stick around and check it out.
We're going to move on, though, into some quarterbacks. We talking some quarterbacks here on the draft special. And the reason why we're talking quarterbacks is because I completely disagreed. And yet again, check out my mock draft down below in the description. I disagreed with Todd McShay. And I'm not going to give it away and tell you what the disagreement was. You got to check out my mock draft for that. But basically with Todd McShay, he had one quarterback go in the first round. And that was Trubisky. Yeah, every single quarterback went in the first round. Mitch Trubisky going to a team that might be a shocker, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll ask you guys this. Does a quarterback, right now, early on in the draft process, is a quarterback going to go in the first round? And if so, who's the first quarterback you're leaning on early on in this draft is like, this is my front runner to be the first quarterback off the board?
So, this is an interesting one. Now, I think Ricky, we do mock drafts on most of the podcast. So this conversation comes up all the time.
And this is going to change.
Exactly. That's what it is.
It's changing tomorrow.
Exactly. Your first mock draft that you do, honestly, it's almost just throwing something out there and then being like, this is what I think right now. It's going to drastically change because there are bowl games. The pick order is going to change. The combine's going to happen. Interviews. Someone's going to have a video of them smoking a bong out of a gas mask. So a lot of things are going to happen. Now, I think that people's first mock drafts, they kind of go extreme. I had 4 quarterbacks going in the first round last year.
I actually looked back. You want to know who the first quarterback off my board was last year's 1.0? Paxton Lynch to the 49ers at number 5. Yeah. Totally didn't happen.
Yep. I had not Paxton Lynch. I think I had Carson Wentz going like super late to, I think I had him going to the Saints or something like that. So these things change drastically. That's why I think, Todd McShay saying only one quarterback to the Chiefs. Yeah, that's going to change drastically. And that's what gets to me. Yes, there will be a quarterback drafted in the first round.
You have a good memory. You did have him going to the Saints.
I do have a good memory. That is correct. I think, yes, there'll be a quarterback taken. Yes, there will probably be multiple quarterbacks. I'm going to probably ride Kaiser out of Notre Dame. I think that he will go. And I can get into why maybe a little bit later.
Well, the interesting thing about Kaiser, and I just want to throw this out, because this was the big thing that threw me through a loop, was that second overall pick. Because right now it looks like the second overall pick is going to be the 49ers, unless the Browns are able to win 3 games or 2 games or something.
No, all the Browns have to do is win one, I think. I think 49ers have a weaker strength of schedule.
Do we think the Browns are going to win one? Maybe against the Chargers, but that's a story for a different day.
They can totally do it. They can totally make it happen.
But that second pick with the Niners was interesting for me because it's like, do you go quarterback or do you say, you know what, none of the quarterbacks are worth it. I'm not making that mistake. And to me, it was between Jonathan Allen of Alabama, that defensive lineman who, yeah, he can be an edge rusher on the outside, but in their 3-4 technique, he can kind of move inside and be that dominant force on the inside of that line like he is at Alabama. Or do you go to Deshaun Kaiser, a guy who has mobility, has the arm, doesn't have the best completion percentage, but is there where you want it? His only biggest knock is his accuracy. He's not the most accurate on passes, although he has that completion percentage. To me, the Niners were the big one. If you're Chip Kelly, do you go with a quarterback? And eventually I said, no, you don't do it. You pass on him and you leave Kaiser for another day.
I think that's tough. I think that's tough only because, take a look at the position they're in right now. But then again, a lot of these teams that are up at the top, I think the Cleveland Browns, what they're going to draft first is a win. They're just going to draft a win because they're probably not going to get one. I think that, they could go a number of things. They really could go a number of things because they need help all around the football. I think if I am the San Francisco 49ers, I really take a long, hard look at the quarterback market. I'll say the market. It's not really a market because you're not. But I think that I'm taking a really hard look at that because of the fact you need to be able to bring in somebody who's not already there. You're clearly not going to win with any of the quarterbacks you have there right now.
And the only one that's under contract after this year is Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, he's got to move on. He's got to move on. The 49ers have to move on. I think more so the 49ers have to move on from him. They have to move on from him. Blaine Gabbert is not the answer. They need to be able to bring in a new, fresh face to that franchise. And I think that DeShone Kizer really gave a good showing, especially in this last year. I think that they'll want to definitely stay. I'll bring him in now, but a guy who's not even going to be in the conversation is Deshaun Watson, I think, in my opinion, because I think that that'll remind them too much of Colin Kaepernick. They don't want that. I think they want to be able to have a guy who is more of a pocket passer, have more of a presence there in the pocket, and can scramble a little bit, but isn't going to be the guy who is, running for a lot more yards than what you're passing for. That's what Kizer comes with, and that's why I think it's very, very important to take a look at him for the 49ers. I could say the same thing about Cleveland, but I think that they may be set on going with the defensive guy. I mean, it certainly seems that way right now, but maybe things will definitely change. But that's why I say for the 49ers, really take a long, hard look and looking at DeShone Kizer, because if you don't take one there, you don't want to get the scraps left over at the end when things are starting to get towards the okay quarterbacks, but not your top ones. That's what I'm thinking. And I'm saying Kizer, but I mean, they could go with Trubisky, again from North Carolina. I mean, they're going to be one or two. It's open for them, but I just think they need to look more at a quarterback than the defensive guy. Their defense, while struggling, is okay. Their offense has nothing.
Well, and the big knock I will say about Trubisky, and right now everyone's kind of leaning on him to be the early odds favorite. The biggest knock against him, he's only started 12 games in his college career. He'll have 13 after the bowl game. Coming out of college, is that like, if you're a GM, is that something where you're looking at it going, yeah, he played pretty good, but he only had 12 starts, and it's a small sample size. Could help him in the fact that, he played good, let's take him. Could also hurt him in the sample size is too small, I'm not going to take a flyer on this guy.
I don't know if the sample size is the biggest issue for me. I mean, you do love to see a guy, the game tape. You want to see him in the game. But if you can see that the mechanics are right, if you can see he's got good footwork, then seeing those few games and going, okay, yeah, he didn't freak out under pressure. I think that's kind of enough. For a lot of these GMs, especially if they feel good about their offensive coaches, the quarterback's coach, the offensive coordinator, if their head coach is offense oriented. If they have that, they're just, I think part of it's just kind of looking for that, does he have the right stuff? How's that throwing motion? How quick is that release? Whatever, the footwork. Do I feel good about that? Okay, then that's good. Then this is a guy I want. It's a guy who has the things that I can work with. That's what matters to a lot of these coaches and these GMs, I should say. So I would say that's probably more important than the amount of games played, because we've seen guys who didn't play that many games. Maybe a guy who just had that one season did fantastic and then got drafted right off the bat. It happens every now and then. And then you have the other guys who are, 3-year starters, and it takes forever for them to get out of there. But I don't think that really matters too much.
I was going to say, I don't know how much you can relate it to the NBA, but they seem to have no problem. Guy plays one season, Ben Simmons. Did you get enough of a sample size? Well, most of the time they feel like, yes, they did. So, again, I don't know how relatable it is over there, but it doesn't seem like they're all that concerned with, I only got one season from this guy as opposed to 4 seasons from this guy. I think that, like Mark said, if you see the things that are good that you want to see. Okay, he's a little green in this area. We could really, help him out to I think develop him, in this area, but he's got the skills. He's a good raw talent. He'll be okay. He may be on the bench for a little bit longer, but we see him definitely being a guy for the future because, that's what you're bringing them in, be the guy for the future. So I think that that's not necessarily that wouldn't be the biggest concern. I think for me as a GM, the biggest concern would be, okay, the sample size isn't great, and in that sample size, it's been a little bit of a struggle, and he's trying to, come out and come to the NFL now. It would almost be one of those things where maybe she should stay for a little bit longer.
Well, and the thing that surprised me with Todd McShay and his mock draft having Trubisky fall all the way to the Chiefs is I looked at it and went, really? You think that there's not one of these organizations that needs a quarterback ahead of the Chiefs that are going to make the mistake that, like Mark says all the time, bad organizations draft quarterbacks each and every year. That's the mistake you make. If you're drafting a quarterback each and every year, obviously something ain't working. If you're looking for the guy
that quarterback early, you're going to keep doing it.
Where the Browns, they're a team that could look for a quarterback. I didn't have them go as one because, as me and Sean talked about on the Onside Kick this past week, if they have an astronomical grade, and that was the quote from the article for Myles Garrett, I'm ready right now unless something catastrophically happens. He gets caught with a mask on his face with a bong. He's a Brown. That's basically what I'm looking at
and it sucks. Sorry, man.
Because Hugh Jackson ain't going to make that mistake. Now, they could also look for quarterback at the 9th pick if they really have one that they like. They still have to do their due diligence with the quarterbacks. But I just scroll down. The Niners, who we talked about, they could look for a quarterback. Chicago Bear fans, cover your ears. The Bears could be drafting a quarterback. The Jets, there are already early rumors that they really like Mitch Trubisky and want to make him the next New York Jet, and they're having buyer's remorse on Christian Hackenberg.
As they should.
Like I mentioned, the Browns at 9 could take a quarterback. The Cardinals at 11, depending on the Carson Palmer situation, they could go for a quarterback. The Bills, if they don't think Tyrod Taylor's the answer.
When's San Diego going to think about going for a quarterback?
They could take a quarterback. I would go wide receiver first.
Sure, but I'm just saying, Phillip Rivers isn't going to be around forever, and what we saw this year, he has thrown a lot of interceptions.
The Chargers, I think, are at that point where they got to draft a quarterback every year until Phillip Rivers is gone. Because they got to just take a flyer on as many guys and see if they can get somebody they feel good about just developing.
And especially with Phillip, like you said, kind of with Phillip Rivers there right now, it may be better to draft quarterback sooner rather than later because you want to bring someone in. You want to be able to have Phillip Rivers show them the ropes because this is a quarterback. Phillip Rivers, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's a very good quarterback. He has had some struggles this season.
Just hasn't had anyone to throw to. Keenan Allen getting injured 2 years in a row.
Keenan Allen, that's huge. But Tyrell Williams, we found a good receiver on that team. He may be the only one, but I think that he's a good receiver. I think you have Hunter Henry coming in, going to be a good tight end coming in after if Antonio Gates ever decides to retire, which he may not. But I think that, they need to bring in a quarterback. They have had kind of the same guy there in Phillip Rivers, which they're lucky for a long time, but they have not been winning for a while either. So,
I'll throw out this one. You throw out the Chargers. Do the Saints think about a quarterback?
I think they have to.
Do they think about a quarterback because, A, thinking about maybe trading Drew Brees, or, A, Brees ain't going to be playing forever. We got to find his backup.
Well, that's what I thought they were going to do last year. And I think that a lot of this draft can go one of two ways. It can go the kind of common way that people expect is that people overvalue some quarterbacks and they draft them early. The Browns, the 49ers, the Bears. Unfortunately, maybe this is just me being a pessimist, I kind of feel like the Bears are going to be the team to do it. I feel like the Bears are going to be the team that goes, hey, how often are we up this high? Let's just grab the quarterback now. I don't think there's a top 5 worthy quarterback right now, and that's not a hot take. Everyone I think would agree with that.
Yeah.
So the two ways that this goes is that someone overvalues, or that it's more of like the Geno Smith quarterback year where it was just, we know a quarterback's probably going to get taken at some point. when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And it just kind of waits and waits.
Right now, I am, and at this point, I've kind of left it this long so that you guys can look at my mock draft, hopefully by this time. Right now, and like I said, and you said it too, Mark, 1.0s are usually just throw it at the wall, see what sticks. Right now, I'm leaning towards the fact that I don't think any of these quarterbacks are worth a first-round flyer. I just don't see it right now.
But will one of them go? I would say probably.
Right now, I'm saying if you had to say, Ricky, do we have a quarterback go in the first round? I'm saying no. This will be the first year since 1996 that we don't see a quarterback go in the first round. And I mean, the big reason why, and this could play into it, next year's quarterback class going to be creme de la creme next year, and
everyone,
it's all
you say that every year.
It is all going to be the Baker Mayfield sweepstakes.
But I got to tell you though, some of these teams are going to think, I can't wait till next year. I got to go now.
Well, you got guys with jobs on the line.
But see, that's the thing. That's why it's not. You can't just simply say, oh gosh, you got to look to next year's quarterback class. I mean, there's teams like the Browns, teams like San Francisco. I mean, you can throw the Bears in there. You can throw the Jets in there. Some of these teams, they can't wait. Their head coach is going, get me a quarterback now that I can use right now because I got to win some games so I don't lose my job.
The offseason will be interesting too in this because Tony Romo could be on the move.
Probably going to the Bears if they don't get a quarterback.
Could be on the move.
I hope not, God.
Jay Cutler could be on the move. I mean, Kirk Cousins, the Redskins have said that they're probably going to franchise tag him again, but Kirk Cousins is a name, could be on the move. There are names in free agency that some of these teams, like, I look at more like the Cardinals, the Chiefs, like, teams could go out and really the good teams that don't need to draft a quarterback could go out and get. Not a team like the 49ers because I don't think that...
How would the Chiefs get a quarterback?
Well, I'm saying like...
I think the Chiefs would be the team that they would draft a quarterback because they're perfectly fine right now with Alex Smith. He's conservative. He doesn't turn the football over much. I think they'd be fine bringing in a quarterback via the draft.
So then more so Cardinals
if someone
and Saints.
Falls far enough, obviously.
Yeah. But I'm saying then more like Cardinals if Carson Palmer retires or the Saints if they decide to move on from Drew Brees. I mean, right now the big kind of speculation is that Tony Romo to the Broncos might happen. So, I mean, it's going to be free agency, offseason need to happen, and then all this will be kind of sorted out in the end. And eventually every film is going to get looked at and teams are going to say whether, yes, we're going to take a quarterback, no, we're not. Right now, I'm leaning towards no, there's no quarterback, but that could change. You're saying that there's going to be a quarterback going in the first round?
Without a doubt.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, this is the quarterback era for a reason. Quarterback will get drafted. Even if it's only one. Even if it's only one.
There will be one. There will be one.
Well, and this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you think about the different quarterbacks in this draft, the three at the top, any sleepers that you have that could make their way up into the first round. And then some, let us know in the comments section.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And don't worry, there is plenty more where that came from. You guys can check it out right over here. Click that video, start watching it, and just stick around on Most Valuable Podcasts.